Aikatsu's story system is one of the most ambitious idol gimmicks I've seen in Prikatsu. Basing chords on fairy tales sounds simple, but there's so much more than that. Performances, choreography, and even characters were carefully considered for this adaptation to work. I love Aikatsu and I love fairy tales, so let's get right into it. When Aikatsu's 2015 series began, players were introduced to the story system. This system is themed around fairy tales, with dresses being based on various characters. Unlike Constellations, the previous mechanic, the story can be shared between different brands, which allows for different characters to embody different styles. There's some more to it, but we'll stick to that for now. Explaining why it works requires us to look at the chords and stories behind them, and what I find is by allowing different brands to play different parts, Aikatsu takes full advantage of these rich inspirations. Swan Lake is the first story we're introduced to. This is a ballet which partly inspired Princess Tutu, which I recommend you all watch. And yes, we all know the name is dumb, but give it a try. Now the ballet features 7 characters and inspires 5 different chords. Akari wears the Odette Swan chord. She's the main character of Aikatsu, and Odette is the main character of Swan Lake. Sumire, her rival, is wearing the Odile Swan chord. Being the black swan is perfect for Sumire, as in Swan Lake, Odile is Odette's rival. The black swan-white swan dichotomy is carried through even further. In episode 111, the 2 swans take the stage. I find the number very fitting given the focus on dichotomy. The stage is a lake and there's 2 swans facing each other in the back. Odette, the Swan Queen, has a crown with white feathers and a watery blue. Odile, in contrast, features black feathers and a much pointier skirt. Her blue resembles the night sky much more than Odette's. The 2 chords fit both the story and the characters wearing them. Now what about the rest of the cast? Well, let's take a look at that. There's Siegfried, the prince who loves Odette, Rothbart, the magician who curses Odette, and lastly, a boring third swan for whatever reason. It should be noted that I don't think those are the only swans in the story, I just don't see why Aikatsu included the less important ones. Personally, I would have named the magical toy chord after Rothbart, as the brand is already associated with magic. While Hinaki's chord isn't swan-like either, she could have been Benno, the prince's friend, or perhaps Wolfgang, who is the tutor. You might not think it's that important since magical toys isn't important, but featuring girls still got a fitting character for the story, Prince Siegfried. Snow White is an iconic story that I'm certain you're all aware of. If you haven't heard it well, open another tab and then come back. The titular princess this time is Sumire. She's wearing the red apple-themed Snow Princess chord. The rich red color is rather evocative of blood, which makes the chord even more gothic in my eyes. After all, the hunter was meant to bring her heart back. Throughout the performance, Sumire sings into the mirror. While not the original use of the mirror in the fairy tale, it is nice to see it incorporated into the stage. The mirror cracking at the end is also a great touch. Hinaki and Akari get to be dwarves. They're with Sumire in the story, just like the dwarves with Snow White in the fairy tale. Unfortunately, they're not really based on any of the dwarves. Akari is just the girl dwarf, and Hinaki is a country dwarf. I will admit I love Hinaki's chord a lot. The western cowboy look is great, but it doesn't really make sense to call them dwarves, or at least base them off of nothing. I've seen one comment calling Akari the hunter, and while I don't believe this was ever the case, I love the headcanon. Angel Sugar gets to be the mirror with a girly blue outfit, and I think it's fine enough. Honestly, Featuring Girl could have taken this with its emphasis on reflective surfaces. The apple itself is represented by Sangria Rosa. This is the new sexy brand, and the chord features gross red, purple, and blue strips. I don't mean gross in a bad way, but it does look poisonous. I like that the apples are blue as the inversion of color feels very intentional. I like to imagine that Love Queen would get the stepmother chord, but it's a shame that her and the hunter don't really have anything in this story. Cinderella is yet another classic fairy tale, so let's get right into it. Judy is our princess this time in the Rose Glass Princess chord. The motifs used are glass and roses. The glassy texture of the dress is pretty, as it makes the roses look like stained glass. The iconic glass slippers can't be missed, and the red skirt is appreciated. Our prince and godmother aren't here, but we do have the carriage, more glass, and time-themed chords. The cast is disappointing, so no one really gets to be a character. Let's just get through it. Sumida's chord is based off of Midnight, and it's properly witchy to fit the fairy tale theme. Happy Rainbow gets the pumpkin, and I guess it fits. The bright orange stripes mesh well with the poppy colors. Happy Rainbow can do no wrong. Best pop brand. Hinaki is one of the closest characters to Judy, so I do think it's good that her chord is based off glass. It's a weird denim glass hybrid, which takes a similar approach to Judy's chord. Lastly, we have Akari in Girly Chronos. It's a unique concept, I guess. Not the best installment, but certainly not the worst fairy tale. The Nutcracker is up next, and in this story, we follow Clara and her tin doll fighting the Mouse King. They travel to the land of sweets, and once they win, they celebrate. The story is associated with Christmas, so it makes sense that this was chosen for Hello Winter Love. Now, our characters are Hinaki, who is the main girl, Clara. The colorful stripes on the cord are like candy, likely inspired by the land of sweets, or perhaps it's just to look festive. The white portion of the skirt and the shoes are pretty festive too. I think Vivid Kiss is a good brand for this, and I love Hinaki, so I'm pretty biased. Akari is the Mouse King. I don't see any mouse inspiration here, and the crown is pulling a lot of the weight in this cord. It's certainly wintry, but I would prefer if she were the Sugar Plum Fairy. The fairy herself is actually Judy. I do love how mystical the gradient skirt is with a bright purple. Swing Rock gets the Nutcracker Prince chord. I don't know why it's still here, but it is. Lastly, there's the Winter Sprite chord for Lolly Gothic, and I just don't remember what this character does either. Perhaps it's because I'm not really familiar with this fairy tale. We don't really do winter here, so the Nutcracker is not something that I'm familiar with. Once again, magical toy. Completely not getting what it deserves. It definitely deserved a chord here. It's so fitting with the theme. Perhaps Akari's chord should have been named after a doll or the Sugar Plum Fairy, because there's nothing mouse-like about it. Now the final story in this part is Sleeping Beauty, which is for the movie. This one has 3 premium rare dresses. Akari is our Princess Aurora, and her chord's motifs include roses and vines. The dazzling soft red makes for a great base. A deep purple underskirt provides great contrast, with the use of white adding grace to this outfit. The shiny red shoes are certainly a nice touch too. An early version of this outfit was orange, and I just thought you should all see it. Lilac Fairy is the iconic PR that Ichigo becomes top idol in. The use of purple and the lack of wings really differentiates it from previous Angel Sugar PRs. We will see purple in the next Angel Sugar PR, which will go to Madoka. The sleeves, hat, and little flowers make it very fairy-like. Lastly, there is Shine Witch. I wanted Mizuki to be an evil queen, and this is the closest we've gotten. Violet is a very regal color, and the moon finds its place on her skirt. I love how shimmery the heart on her chest is. Green and purple have often been used as evil colors, so I'm glad she got her spotlight here. Now these 3 were designed to be used together, so I am glad that they look good together. Mizuki stands out the most with her crop top and the crown placement, as well as a shorter skirt and higher boots. Her skirt also features gemstones where the other girls get flowers. The skirts all have 2 layers, and all the cords feature a crown and gloves. I love that Ichigo gets pink, while Akari leans closer to orange. Mizuki's been wearing purple for a while now, and her hair is purple, so it just really fits. As a trio, I think these dresses really work. The Bamboo Cutter is an extremely old story about a couple finding an infant inside bamboo. She grows up to be beautiful, and the emperor wants to marry her, but sadly, she must return to the moon. Sakuraido Kaden is the only brand that uses this story, which is an unfortunate choice. Due to my lack of familiarity with this text, I won't really analyze it because I'm not very familiar with the story. There's a princess chord, a heavenly chord, and a moon-themed one. It's a shame that they're only in one brand though, and this sentiment seems to be shared in some parts of the fandom. Now next up is The Little Mermaid, one of my personal favorites. Let's see how Aikatsu handled this one. Hinaki is our princess yet again. This girl deserves everything. Bubbles' Mermaid is a PR, and I love the scaly take on the dress. It's very colorful and camp. The trailing fabric is like a mermaid's tail, and the coral stage suits her to a T. Poppin' Bubbles is actually the perfect performance here. with the girls swimming as they sing about love, hoping that it reaches their admired one. I also love that it's Hinaki and Judy singing this, as their friendship was one of the things that was such a gem in Season 3. If there's one thing they did in Season 3, it's make Passionate Jalapeno the best unit, and probably as close as two wings toward the end of Season 2. The other chords focus on the sister, the sea witch, and the prince. Angel Sugar is the prince, a very odd choice. I haven't seen them choose a single prince or male character well so far. Worrying. A pretty chord with pink and blue accents. The shoes are really ornate with the flaps, lining, and gold buttons. Lolly Gothic is the evil stepsister, and it's fine, there's trailing fabric and wavy lining on the skirts too. Lastly, there is Judy, who is the evil witch. I was viciously opposed to this due to its texture, but I have come to see the value. It fits the underwater vibe, and the accessories are fitting. I do like that characters who are close at least seem to have slightly related roles when you look at them in Aikatsu versus how they are in the fairy tale. I'm not sure if it was intentional, but we can always imagine. Thumbelina is the last story this part, and it's about a tiny girl born in a flower. My favorite feature of the PR is how the bust resembles a bouquet held together by the peach lining. The rose sleeves and floral shoes are also very creative. The skirt doesn't look great when limp, but from the right angle, it still carries the bouquet feeling. It's kind of like the PR from Aurora Fantasy, where it's basically an upside-down flower, or rather, when you look at it from above, it creates a very good image that's not really clear when it's limp and moving about. The flower Prince Thumbelina marries is from Aurora Fantasy. It's got a lilac base with gold patterns and a cute pair of shorts. Based off a few comments, it seems people were unhappy that Akari got the PR here. Sakura isn't a main character, so I was not expecting anything. I'm not even sure I was a huge fan at the time, but once we're done I might talk about how the stories were distributed. Sangria Rosa gets to be the swallow, who in the story helped Thumbelina and even loves her. It's a pretty chord, but by far the most random choice. Don't see much swallow-like. Angel Sugar could have been chosen here, maybe something with more feathers. Bohemian Sky is the butterfly, and it's always welcome in my heart. The colors, the butterfly accessories. Bohemian Sky is definitely one of the more unique brands in Aikatsu, so anything it gets really pleases me. Overall, the choices have begun to get more random, and I don't see the same level of inspiration that I saw in Swan Lake and Cinderella. It's a bit of a shame. As we go on, the inspirations will vary wildly in quality. It's still one of the best gimmicks because it allows for PRs to be generated easily, but we're only at the halfway point, so let's take a look at what's coming. Alice in Wonderland follows the titular character through, you guessed it, Wonderland. We've got Angel Alice from Madoka, and this is just great. Filling up the skirt with playing cards is a really obvious illusion. Card suits fit naturally into this purple dress, and help it stand out from previous Angel Sugar PRs. The white rabbit that leads Alice down the hole is it in. The two girls are best friends, and it's very cute that she gets to be the rabbit. The Stardom rabbit is dark green with metallic rabbit decals. I love the pelt and snowy boots, as well as the studs on this outfit. The white fur adds pops of color to this cold palette, but also keeps the color of the rabbit. Sangria Rosa gets the red queen chord, but it doesn't really fit here. I expect sexy brands to get the regal chords, but this season that's tough. Sangria Rosa isn't really a regal brand, and neither is Sakudairo Kaden. I guess it is a nice outfit, capturing the queen's motifs perfectly. Lastly, we have the Mad Hatter, and I'm disappointed. There's nothing mad about this. Give it to Vivid Kiss and throw on a bunch of fabric. I think the Violet Hatter chord is intriguing, but it fails to make its inspiration clear at all. Accessory aside, I doubt you could tell which character this is based off. Perhaps the Cheshire Cat would have worked better as it is purple, and it does have multiple shades in some adaptations. Next story is Pinocchio, which follows a puppet made by Geppetto, who yearns to be a real boy. The Soul Marionette chord is not just a cool name, but also quite fitting. Rin's dancing is akin to how puppets dance with some of their robotic movements, and the cyberpunk influence elevates the idea. Cool blue hues and a shorts thigh-high combo we rarely see makes Rin's chord perfection. Madoka is the blue fairy, and this was the best possible choice. The lacy blue layers and pretty white heels fit really well into Angel Sugar's aesthetic. It also matches well with the magical air of fairies, as do the blue ribbons. Once again, the anime team and the game team may not have been as coordinated as I imagine, but it is good that the two best friends have chords that are prominent in each other's fairy tales. Akari is our fox with yet another pelt. It's just a single step. It's honestly just a step above the Violet Hatter chord. Lastly, we've got Geppetto, the puppet maker himself. I do like the overall in belt as well as boots. It gives it just the slightest inventor vibe. Bright candy colors are always welcome here, and Hinaki can do no wrong. Hansel and Gretel follow siblings who get trapped in a candy house by a cannibal witch. Fun for the whole family. Unfortunately, just like the bamboo cutter, this is all in one brand. The candy house is the PR, and its colorful layers are very bright and gummy-like. One thing they've excelled with this season is textures. Every single PR is shaded in a way you can just feel. The titular characters get matching outfits, but the witch outfit is very disappointing. A different brand would definitely have done a lot better. Arabian Nights is here, and the PR is Judy's. Scheherazade's story follows a king whose wife cheated on him. As a result, he marries a new virgin each day and kills them at night. Scheherazade avoids this by telling him a story each night, and after 1,000 nights, he spares her life. I guess the violent origin explains the knives in the performance. Anyway, the PR is immaculate. A rose held in the bust holds the top together, and the poofy leg piece is appreciated. The king himself is represented by Lolly Gothic, and for once I like it. Previous male roles didn't really fit, but this blue and silver design just works well. The belt and water sashes are unique, and the boots are my favorite part, from the feathers to the cross and the silver tips. Next up is the girl's magic cord, and this isn't really based on anything to my knowledge. The colors are refreshing to see. Green blends really well with this shade of pink. I also love the boot sandals, so quirky. Lovely Mage is the pink magician cord, and here we see how every story has revitalized every brand it touches. Nothing else in Angel Sugar looks like this. They're soft poofy shorts and armbands with pink shoes. Now the last story is Peter Pan. Now the last story for this part is Peter Pan. First of all, Hinaki and Judy. That's all. Vivid Kiss gets the titular role, and Hinaki makes the perfect Peter. She's got the short hair, and despite wearing a skirt, this cord gives her a very tomboyish look. See, this is what I mean when I say Planet's PRs feel so disconnected from the characters. This cord screams Hinaki. The denim, the random accessories, the mismatching. These are all things she wears in real life. I especially love how ornate the belt is. Angel Sugar does get the Wendy cord, but it rightfully goes to Judy. This cord is a lot more feminine, so that really pushes the dichotomy in their performance. Dark Belle is a strange choice, but the studded chain heels are impeccable. The Captain Hook cord is clearly pirate-themed, with its iconic boots, a skull, and torn fabric on the cord. It's something I would have loved to see animated. The Wizard of Oz follows Dorothy as a tornado blows away her house. The end. Sumire gets the Growth Dorothy cord, and it's a really nice fit. I love the lace and skirt layers as well as the bright red gems. Dorothy's signature red shoes are featured as well. I understand that it wouldn't have fit because the Tin Man isn't the main character, but I would have loved to see it in get a second PR. Part 6 gives both Sumire and Akari a third PR, which is completely unnecessary. But anyway, the cowardly lion in this tale is Madoka, a soft cute fur cord that doesn't rely on a pelt to get across the animal inspiration. The warm yellow color also vaguely invokes the lion. It in being the Tin Man makes a lot of sense, but I do wish we had better textures for this. I understand it's supposed to be silver, but here it just looks like faded denim. It's probably the best the CG could do. Lastly, we have Akari the Scarecrow with a checked shirt and flowers because farm. Sadly, there's only one more story, and that's Town Musicians of Bremen, whoever those are. I think that the violin shapes in Akari's PR, an unnecessary third PR, 4 if we're counting the movie, is surprisingly natural. The red peplum on the skirt also makes it look more flowy, which really helps the layers underneath. Hinaki's marching band fit is great because pop girls rarely get to wear green, even when it's their color. Judy's cord has a great top with a red trim and feathers. It gives off a very classic theater vibe, and it would have been nice to see it. Now, on to the distribution. Giving Akari and Sumire 3 PRs is strange when Rin and Maruka were right there. They could easily have received these instead. Additionally, we don't really get to see Red Riding Hood or Beauty and the Beast, which could have been the third story here. They could have given Akari the third PR if they wanted to, because she's the main character, but don't let the other girls struggle with nothing. Now, before we end this video, I want to talk about Boom. Booms are basically fashion trends. No one really talks about them in the fandom, but if you're a fan, I have been giving them some love on Twitter, so you should go follow me there. With that said, thank you so much for watching. This video went through a lot of rewrites. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just reading off the wiki, because it is a mechanic that I like, and I do want people to appreciate it a little more. I feel like the flashy ones like Star Wings and jeweling dresses get all the attention, but the way Akari Generation incorporated its mechanics into the chords is a lot more subtle, and an approach that I would like to see later on. Similar to attributes, but on a smaller scale. With that said, I don't know how Aikatsu is alive, but see you guys next time.